What's up, Midjourney nerds? We are back. Midjourney Fast Hours podcast. Drew Brucker, Rory Flynn, back in the building.
Welcome.
January
10.
10?
10.
10? You sure?
Somehow.
No one knows what day it is.
No one knows. It doesn't matter anymore. We're living in the singularity, dude.
So true. So true. Yeah, who cares? Who cares?
That's
what
it.
day it is?
I don't know. It all feels the same at a certain point. I think now that there's definitely got to be like some sort of parent time warp effect that goes into play as soon as you have a child, because it's just like May to January. Who knows? I don't remember anything. I don't know how it got to here. I don't know where I've been, who I've been in the last.
The days
months.
are long. The weeks are fast.
That's a good way to put it. That was very, very poetic of you.
Yeah. Days are long. Weeks are fast. That's how it is as a parent.
And the weekends feel like the weekdays.
They do.
That's right.
And I mentioned this before. I mean, it's sort of like a good little trade-off because you get 5 days of a weekend versus 2, but at the same time, your weekend now is considered working. So,
That's correct.
Take that
Facts.
for what it's worth.
Big facts. It's I heard you're doing some snow angels today down in Atlanta.
Yeah. So absolutely snowing in Atlanta, which, you could say snowing in Atlanta and, people get excited that, you might have a little bit of flurries that hit the ground and melt. This is not the case today. School has been called off, which is not unnormal, even if there's not any snow. We've actually had school be called off just because of rain before. So that's actually happened. But we've got legit snow. I would say there's probably a legit 2 to 3 inches already on the ground, not melting right away. So the kids are stoked. This is really I think the first time the kids have seen snow. There was one winter where when they were babies, it snowed, but it melted right when it hit the ground. So it was cool to show them, but never really got to play in it. This time we got all dressed up. We went outside. We did the snow angels. We built a little snowman out there, and the kids are packing up the snow, grabbed a carrot, threw the carrot in the snowman's nose. We're looking for something to use as the eyeballs. I grabbed a pair of sunglasses inside, threw them on the snowman, perfect. But then my wife's like, no, I don't really like the sunglasses. I'm like, are you serious? Takes the sunglasses off, starts to kind of grab some stuff off the ground, mulch stuff off the ground.
Wood chip eyes.
Yeah, wood chip eyes.
All right.
And,
now we're getting all
and I'm like,
Midjourney here.
this looks like shit, and literally it was shit.
You don't have any coal sitting around?
No, hold on. She had grabbed a frozen turd off the ground and placed it as the eyeball. And before I realized that, I had also grabbed said frozen turd and rearranged frozen turd on the snowman.
Was that from your own dogs or someone else's?
Well, does it really matter though? Does it really matter?
It's everyone likes the smell of their own whatever, if you want to call it that. A little bit different. I feel like if it's my dogs versus someone else's, I don't even know what it is. It's the same thing, but
we
it's just
went full circle, and immediately, even though it's frozen turd, it's I'm going in, wash my hands, this is over. The fun's over, we're done. So,
whoops,
that was it, man. But actually, before we did finish up, the neighbors from across the street, they've got a young son. I think he's maybe 5 or 6. Brings over one of those saucer sleds, the good ones, the OG ones. And he's like, yo, you want to give this a ride? Talking to the kids. Kids like, I don't know. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. Let me give it a test first. Because my driveway goes pretty much straight down. We're a little bit on a hill. And then on the other side of the street, there's a neighbor. And they're even further down a hill. So, their driveway's a hill, but they go up. My driveway's a hill. I go down, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So I get on this saucer and take off. I go face first, on my belly, saucer. And before I went, I was like, guys, based on the way this snow looks, I give this maybe a 2 out of 10 chance that, this is going to work well. It actually did work really well. So I got a running start, flew down, jumped on the saucer, went down the driveway, ramped up, went through the street, and then like went fast enough to where I hit the neighbor's driveway and then went down again then ran right into their garage. So
nothing makes you feel like a kid more than just doing dumb stuff. And, you got to go head first because why not? Let's test the insurance company's capabilities.
Let's do the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're going to do it, go 100%. And there is something to be said about the saucer sleds coming from the Northeast. You really can't beat them. It's like you can try. Back we also used to just grab garbage can tops and just do that. That was like legit stuff. But
do what you got to do.
Next time you'll build a little ramp when they're like, if the snow gets hard packed enough, get a little jump into that.
That's what I'm saying,
driveway.
man. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, minus the frozen dog turds. It was a lot of fun.
Yes, and if you also have a pool tube, another great thing. If you have
like a
tube,
like a noodle.
Noodle? Well, no, I don't. Maybe you could.
What are you talking about? Pool tube,
like an inflatable tube.
Yeah.
Those things. Like we've definitely used one of those flamingos before.
I wouldn't have thought about
as a
that.
Snow sled.
I like that.
They glide like a mofo. They're awesome.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, very very slick. They get wet, so they just right over the top.
Amazing.
It's a winner.
Amazing.
You pick up a lot of speed with those things. I miss.
Amazing, man.
I miss being an idiot.
Okay, so that's me. What about you? Because you had an eventful week in Florida, sir. Since the last time we spoke.
Nothing. We will go from nailing the foot to going to. I went to the hospital this week for God knows what. Who knows? I'm in the emergency room. I'm back. I'm healthy now. But it was a pretty dodgy day or two there.
Dodgy.
Yeah, and we gotta. I like to say that I bring the worst of whatever environment's weather with me when I travel. Went to South Florida, Naples. It's supposed to be. I think when we did the last podcast, it was like 60. It dropped into like the 40s. Like, when the hell is South Florida in the 40s?
No one's bringing a jacket when they're traveling to South Florida.
Yeah, we were like going out in the morning to get coffee. I'm like, what is this? Come on. It's like, do I need sweatpants in southern Florida? It's like, this probably happens once a year.
Did you check the weather in New York while you were there? Like, how
it was like -5 here.
Oh,
but
it was
like,
okay. It was really cold.
Trading a little bit, but you don't go to South. I brought my bathing suits, not sweatpants.
Of course.
So
did you touch water while you were there?
I did go in a pool and I did touch the ocean. Yeah. There was one day we had about a 75-degree day, and we went to the beach. I stepped in the water. Was like, it's not warm enough for that. It's good. Like, if this is the middle of the summer, it's 85 degrees out, 90 degrees out, I'd be right in. But it was, just cold enough to be like, we'll just ride here. We had one great day at the pool where the water was low, some relatively warm. Then they refilled it. When you put the hose in the pool and it becomes like 10 degrees colder immediately. That was the next day. So it was, weren't going in there. But
maybe
can't have it all.
I'll play Mr. Brightside here. Like, was it still good to get away and slow down a little bit? Like, get into that slow swing of things that the South brings away from New York? Or
so, that being said, I want to say Naples is just an extension of New Jersey or New York.
Oh, like, is it really?
It's, there's traffic. There's, busy play. Everything's busy. Like, it's not like I went to like an island and chilled. It was like I get in the car and it's like I'm battling people, switching lanes and stuff. I'm like, oh,
damn,
just like home. But regardless, we had a good time. We laughed a lot. Faye is absolutely out of her mind, so she provides constant entertainment, and it's good. We just hopefully next time we go down a little bit warmer and can actually like do Florida things. Florida things. As you heard Faye in the background, she's on board with that.
It's like, next time. No playing around next time.
Yeah. Mm.
Well,
it did give me an opportunity to get back into some of the into some Midjourney when I had a couple minutes. I was using it as like my downtime, which I like when there's no agenda. It's just like, let me go and play. Just like I've been missing out on this tool. I feel like I've missed it. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So many other things trying to learn and keep up with. I'm just like, I just want to play on here. I hadn't had time to do that in a while. So it was good, and it was just like cathartic. like kind of our conversations.
Every time. Every time. Totally agree. Yeah, I get that. Because like we might be on a client call or doing a training or this or that. Like that's not playing in Midjourney. It's just like I'm in the tool, but I'm not actually doing it from a no agenda, purely creative standpoint, you know?
Yeah, there's no structure. Like also our episode last week, I think got me back into it. Faye is really like not happy with our conversation right now, but it got me back into the that mindset of just like being creative. Just like instead of just trying to get something and then utilize it for video or get something for a post or whatever, it was just like where can we go? Can we make the walls clouds? Can we, put Carlos Santana at the end of a stairway up to heaven
we did.
or hell?
And we did.
Like it was.
And we did.
It was like that was like, oh, I forgot that I can have a lot of fun here. But it also, in testing all of these other tools, because we're always kind of like looking for what's new. Photon or Kriya or Flux or Ideogram or whatever. It's just like I get to the point where I'm like, it's Midjourney. It just is. Like, I look at it.
That's funny that you say that.
It makes me go back.
Yeah, there's just that magical element of Midjourney. It's the parts that we talk about. It's the part that you talk about. It's the part of this creative interpretation and this underlying magic that exists within the tool for whatever it is, as intangible as it is. It's not replicated to this point.
No.
It's almost like it's its own thing. Like Midjourney is an AI image generation tool, but there are other AI image generation tools. None of them are like Midjourney. Midjourney is almost like its own category. Like.
Yeah,
it's
just like you go back and forth between like the differentiating factors. Like control is awesome. Testing all these other tools and realizing that the control is there, you can get what you want. It's cool, but at the same time, like it just doesn't have any pop. And maybe I'm prompting wrong on these things, but there's just sometimes you just need like that little extra. Like when you first use the stylize parameter in Midjourney and you like dialed it all the way up, and you're like, whoa, that's cool. That's not what I prompted for, but it's cool. The chaos parameter when you went all the way and you're like, that's not even something I would ever expect or ever prompt, but I like to play with it because there's like this branching effect to it. Like we did with the episode last week. Like
I was going to say, we talking about micro decisions here?
Yeah, it's like the multiverse in terms of like mapping your imagination or something like that. But yeah, it's just feel a little bit was feeling a little bit nostalgic to get back to just like going on there and doing stuff. Like I used to at night.
There's still a lot to do. Like, in all honesty, I'm still thinking about all the things that just happened with Moodboards and the personalization stuff. And it's like, yeah, we've created Moodboards and we've started to train, other personalization things. But like, if you're like me, it's like, I've only done so much. I've got a few. I'd like to do more. I would like to press the gas on how far that goes, right? I would like to set up more mood boards that are more specifically focused and targeted towards some sort of like outcome that I envision either that I need now or in the future, and starting to go down those paths. But it's like, there's only so much time, right? Like
maybe we do that for an episode too. Just build a mood board to collectively see what we can do with it.
Like that.
See how we edit it. See how we
I like that a lot. And
maybe
we do that here in the next week or two because I agree, right? Like that to me has been one of the more fun things to play with lately. Obviously, it's a new feature, but also just trying to see how far you can push the boundary on it, which you and I both do, right? We want to see what are all the different ways that we could use this? What are all the different ways this potentially has application for what we're doing, either just for personal fun or on the other side of it.
Yeah, where are the rough edges? What do we need to avoid? What do we need to push? So maybe we tee that one up, guys. We'll do that one for because I've been waiting to play around with it a lot more. Maybe we do it live and see you guys can see our real reactions to it, how we'd probably get around some of this stuff. Now that we have this somewhat of a new format, seemed like people liked it.
People like that a lot. And I felt like you and I both thought that would be the case. And just so you guys know, we winged that one. You know,
100%.
like that was 100% of a wing, but I think like there are a lot of those types of formatted episodes we could still go further into, right? It's the mood board side. We didn't even go, into, I think one of the things I think about with micro decisions, which is I've got one additional idea and just the variations and just like those initial controls and how far you could go with that to get something you like. You brought up the mood board stuff. One of the things that Midjourney brought up on the most recent office hours is the ability to mix mood boards and personalizations, which, by the way, I tried again. Now I can't do it.
I told you. You had like some special access that no one else did.
There was something going on there.
You had a glitch in the matrix.
Dude, I did. Because I tried it again, nothing. Then I was like, okay, did I just do this wrong? Like, did I maybe like overlook something? I went back. I successfully mixed mood boards. Mixed. Yes. I was like, okay.
With the selection tool too, with the drop down selection tool.
Yeah.
Which I was like, this doesn't work. It's not working for me.
Well,
at
and
all
like I took like two totally different things too, just to see, right? Like a mood board that's like this and a mood board like this, just to make sure that was actually happening, and it was. So sadly enough, that's not the case, but it sounds like that will be accessible here soon.
Similar trajectory to, or similar progression to SREF. If anyone's familiar with how SREF went, it was you could do one, and then you could do two, and then you could wait. So I'm assuming that's the same way it's going to progress. From that standpoint.
Would like to also, anecdotally, random thought, would also like to see the ability to run the permutations on the retexture, with the style weights. Like, come on.
Good idea. That and if we could get on the personalization side, like on Discord, we talked about this last week, where you can find all of your old personalization codes. Like, can I just have that as a drop down to make my global profile? Because I like my older ones. It's just the way it is. That's just a hard fact for me. I just like them more. But I did hear something, and we're definitely going to talk a lot about office hours today because they came back swinging after 3 weeks off. For the 5 minutes that I was on, that I heard David say we're basically going to force people to use personalization or want them to do that. So I feel like that's going to be way more part of their trajectory moving forward, is like personalization really is. We didn't really know where that was going, I think, but that seems to be like their focus moving forward, is like real personalization, each individual user, like less mass appeal kind of stuff, if that makes sense.
You could tell that's sort of been that focus for them to really like get people to use it. It sounds like more people are using it. Mm-hmm. But it's always good to, I guess, hear some of the feedback that he's got when it comes to like the totality of users and how they use the tool, because those are reminders, I think, for me, probably for you too, where it's like, okay, well, still a lot of people aren't doing this stuff, right? Like we're, at the end of the day, we're kind of in our own echo chambers, whether that be in our conversations one-on-one or on a LinkedIn or on an X, like we follow people and people follow us, that we're in this same circle. And just generally speaking, we're one of the first movers in this technology. Those reminders are important to kind of like ground us in terms of what and where people are at, like what they're focused on and where they're at. So like personalization is definitely a part of that. I think they're trying to get everybody to use it.
Definitely. I think there's also just like there is a diehard contingent that just likes Midjourney's default style. Like, I mean, I'm one of them. I still I gravitated towards it immediately before personalization, 80 to 90%.
I mean, it was before personalization, it's all you knew. And it was like, oh, this is good, right?
Still great. So I still think there's people that just like it. I mean, I know me personally, I was like, I don't really want to go too far on personalization because I don't want to stray from the aesthetic that I like. And then I did go too far, and now my P code is like a horror film. Everything I prompt with it, it just
you don't like it anymore.
It's like 4 iterations ago, I loved it, and that's when I didn't do anything with it for about like a month or so. I'm like, I'm not going to rank any pairs. I love the way it is right now. And then I was like, for the purposes of content and talking about this stuff, I'm just going to go further. I got it to like, I went from like level 4 to like level 8 or something, like, or level 5 or 6, whatever. I jumped up a few levels, and now it's just like, it's a pure horror show. Like there's like blood and like weird stuff, and I don't prompt anything horror. Anything. I don't like anything I don't rank any pairs that are horror. I don't do anything that's in like that sci-fi mix. It's like what personalized this?
What did you answer on those surveys, bro?
I don't know. They maybe they know something about me that I don't.
I think that's a great point though. So that's what I did too. I think we're in the same boat. I really liked my personalization for a long time. I still do my original personalization. But what I started to do is once they released that, I started training a brand new one. I just called it 2025 personalization. And I'm about maybe 600 images deep on ranking that, and so I'm just trying to like basically use that as, hey, like I want to have a secondary option that's trained. I'm probably not going to get to like the 18 or 19,000 that I had on the other one, but like a strong model that's maybe a little bit more updated. And maybe I have a different mindset going into how I'm going to rate those, because I feel like, because right to our point,
intention going in.
When we got personalization the first time, things had changed. We did, this is what personalization is. Okay. We knew A or B part of the equation. Then, weeks later, maybe we know a little bit more about personalization and how it works, and then a little bit more. And maybe at first we're starting to rank these things based off which image do I like better? And then maybe halfway through it, we're just starting to like images that, is this something I would prompt for or not? Right. Like, so those are two different intentions altogether. And so, I'm trying to take something like this new personalization into account of like one singular mindset. Mm-hmm. Is this something that I would maybe produce and is a good quality image in my style? Meaning, like, if it's, an illustration style that I like and something I could use, maybe, I'm gonna rank that, even though maybe I do a lot more photorealism, versus something that maybe is a good image that maybe is something I never prompt for. Like, those are strategies and decisions that you yourself have to make. But I think maybe the idea that you could have one singular focus into how you're going to decide what you're going to rank could actually help. So it's just something to think about, something I'm thinking about right now.
I was going to ask you, now that we have the ability to train in like a different personalization code, because I've taken a different approach to it also now. Like my global one was only like, I want this very specific look, and that's how I want it to be, because I want it to be my aesthetic, right? Now that I can go a bunch of different ways, like I found like my P codes are very gritty, textured, super contrasty, looks like everything is Q2 from the start. Like, it's just like, that's what I ranked the entire time. I would skip like 40 images until I found ones that I liked, which is probably why I never got to really high levels. But it was then like these new ones, like now I'm like, okay, well now I rarely prompt for softer looking images, right? Like, that's just not my preference. Regardless, I still like it every once in a while when I want it. So now I'm like training one that's specifically on a softer aesthetic. And then now I have another one where it's like, I'm just liking everything that I like. Like, I don't care what style it is. I just want to see like sort of the variance when I use them, because the softer profile that I've created works really well when I want something to be softer, right? Like, it's like, okay, that's a very useful tool, like depending on what you need it for, right? Like, if you understand sort of like there's going to be a weight attached to whatever you start to rank, and it's gonna like heavily influence your outputs, like, then you can start to do it more strategically in terms of like what you're looking for. Maybe if you're looking to do more artistic or fine art focused stuff, or you're trying to do more animated things, or maybe you just work a lot with Niji, right? Like, go and rank accordingly, like that way. Maybe create one that's specifically for that, because now it's not like everything you do has to be attached to this one P code. It can be a bunch. So it's trying to find those little like intricacies.
100%. Like, what I'm doing now too is I'll take basically, I would say most of the things I'm prompting for experientially or personally at this point, I'll run through both of those personalization codes that I've trained the most on. Then I'll also randomly throw in, what would this look like with this mood board? What would it look like with this mood board? So like, oftentimes I'm running that same prompt across 2 personalizations and 3 mood boards, just to see what comes out of it, and how that interprets what I'm putting in. And the ability to get unique but great results from that has been massive. And so that's what I mean, like, going back to sort of how we started this conversation, I would like to spend a lot more time with mood boards and personalization, a lot more time, because I do think that's where this can really be streamlined. It can be very strategic. And just going back to personalized versus mood board, maybe one other way you could think about it, maybe personalize in that profile that you're creating from that standpoint is more of a generalized approach of, do I like this image versus this image? Or is this something I would prompt for? Period. The end. Doesn't have to be specific to an illustration or a photorealism type of thing, but just like, yeah, I like this image. Or I like this image over this one because this one has more color and saturation versus this sort of flat interpretation of it, right? Like things like that versus a mood board where that I think is maybe the more specific nature of it, which we talked about too, where it's like keeping it tight is the word that you use, right? Like keeping that mood board a little bit more buttoned up, tight and specific to an idea that you have, whereas the personalization can maybe broad and span the different things that you like and don't like.
Yeah, there's two things that I would love from Midjourney in this personalization sort of quality of life updates.
Quality of life, yeah. Good.
Number one, I'd love to be able to rename the codes. So coming back to like, custom option set in Discord, so I don't have to like cycle through or select or whatever. If I could just type like -- Rory 1, whatever.
Yeah.
Like that would be great.
I agree.
Would be very simple for me.
Totally.
And I would make it a lot easier because number two, I mean, I can like look at them in my feed, but like I don't even know which one it is. You know what I mean? Like it's TX45. It sounds like like a football play, right? Like
and when you're talking about the feed, you're talking about, hey, I've created this now, and let me bring up that same prompt, and it says the profile -- profile, and then I've got a list of letters and numbers. Which one is that even associated to without looking at the create and organize screen, right?
Because that's my next. That feeds into.
It is a huge pain in the ass, especially if you're doing it on mobile, right? Because then you really can't tell.
Then my next problem, which is I think a relatively small one, which is like, can we override if our defaults are selected on the profile codes? Because like I was using, like I'll use one of my old P codes, right? And it's like in the prompt, I go reuse prompt, it pops up in there. And even if I have the default set with a mood board and a profile code, I hit enter, it still doesn't override.
Great
so it's
point.
I gotta like go delete that, redo it, because it's like you can't like for prompting. I don't want to say prompting for speed, but I don't know how many times I've run either permutations on something like that and had like 15 generations, and I'm like, this doesn't look like the mood board I attached. And it's like, oh, damn it.
100%. Dude, I'm glad that you brought that up.
Yeah. Simple one.
These are things that you're only thinking about if you're playing with this stuff a lot. Because this has been on my mind since the last time we spoke. It's just that, right? Because going back to my point of I'm trying different personalizations, different mood boards with the same prompts. And I want to do it quickly, but also you can't permutate profiles and mood boards. Can you? No.
You can on I've tried it for profiles and for mood boards. You can do that.
You can do permutations on profiles and mood boards?
See, the mood board, like I don't understand. So here's the thing. Like when you use a mood board, I think I might get this wrong, so if anyone fact checks me, you're probably right. But I'm pretty sure if you use your global profile and a mood board and you push, you hit enter, then it's like a totally different code rather than if you just put mood board and no personalization code. Like it gets confusing as to what I actually did with it. Do you know what I mean? Like what? Profile? Did I use just the mood board? Not saying that this has to be ironed out or like it's a big factor for them or like me getting upset with it. Just like some of these things, because you just want to, if we're going to focus on personalization, like I kind of want to do things that are, personalized, especially like naming my own stuff. Like the mood board's great. You can name it like, awesome. But still is that like coding sort of back end there where it's like 7532 GXW 43 set hike, like that's kind of how it feels. But I would really like that to be, I don't know how to envision it. And every time I do say something like this, they come up with something that's way easier than I could ever envision a solution. But at least when just maybe having like if your defaults are set like prompt override on the profile codes.
Prompt override.
Yeah, maybe that's one.
I want to show you this.
Maybe it's good to show this.
Well, because and I would love to just show you what I'm doing to make sure.
Is that calculus?
So I saw this random equation somewhere on X. I don't even remember the post.
It looks sick though.
And it generated some sick stuff.
I like that.
But like, let's use this as an example, right? Like what I'll first do is to like make sure when I'm selecting, right? I'll go here.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So like, let me run this and like, let's just run these on fast. Let's do all this good stuff. So let's just do AR11. Okay. That's my default anyway. I'll run the default. What I have is a stylization. Let's just move this to 3 so I don't have to put in a bunch of stuff. Okay. So now that I've got that, let's go ahead and hit enter. Now let's just say I want to switch the profile or the mood board. What I'm doing is I'm going and I'm selecting the new one, unselecting this one, then I'm clicking off, then I'm clicking on. Okay.
Why?
Well, because I don't want to have to copy and paste the code in there. So for example,
I see.
I just click this. Now I've already got this selected.
That's because you're also your aesthetics are selected at default, like the aesthetics, the stylization variety.
Correct.
Right? If I'm doing like Q2, image weight, whatever, you have to like copy those and you reuse the prompt, and then that other profile code comes in there.
And then you got to delete
thing.
it. Yeah. You have 100%. Yeah. Like I'm just showing this like just for speed here, but yes, like you would have to like delete the profile. But I guess I'm just showing you this part, which is now I got to go in. Okay. I'm going to select this. I'm running that. Now, if I do this, and then I'm going to go ahead and select this again, like to your point, if you're just pressing the up command, which is the shortcut to get that prompt to re-enter, it's going to throw that profile or that mood board code right in there. So you're going to have to delete it out. Mm-hmm. So I'm just saying from this example, like I'm just taking that. Now I've got to turn this off, turn this on with the selection so it doesn't confuse that and add that back in. That's all I'm saying. Like, so I'm just pretend like I'm not doing Q2, for example, right? Like,
yeah.
I'm running 300 stylized. I'm running 1.1. So then I'm running that. Then, I'll say, okay, now I'm going to do this. Okay, let's run this one. I'm like hitting off and on every time because I don't want that code to just populate. That's like my shortcut of how I'm doing it without having to delete all this stuff. But it's still a pain in the ass. It's still a huge pain in the ass. Because I'll often go back and to your point, I'll look and I'm like, oh, well, that just ran under my global profile. Yeah. And then I've wasted, maybe a fast hour or something like that, like trying to do that kind of stuff. But this is a cool little prompt here. I mean, you get some really neat stuff out of here,
I'm digging that. I like this idea. So again, that's something you can't put into another generator and get something cool out of. Like that exact prompt right there.
There you go. And, maybe while we're talking about that, like another cool thing that I really love about Midjourney is that you could throw in an emoji and get cool shit. You could throw in lyrics from a song or a one-liner from a song or a poem or whatever it is, and you get really cool, unique, creative stuff. That's part of the magic, right? That's part of the magic.
One-word prompting, stuff like that.
One-word prompting.
Things like that. I love just starting to like it more now that I try to like skew from control every once in a while. It's just like, let's just go down this weird route, see what it comes up with. Because then that's like my way. That's like my idea inspiration now at this point. It's like, let's just let it do the thinking in terms of like creativity, and I'll run with it from that.
Totally.
Every once in a while. So, dude, it's good. I think that was just definitely wanted to hit on the personalization stuff of office hours because I feel like that was to me.
Let's go into that.
Listen, yeah,
I like that because and then that was the idea that we had going into this too is where we're at with Midjourney, the updates. We're getting close to a lot of things here. Yes, that gets tossed around a lot, but I think that's the truth here as we get close to V7. You get close to V7.1, which shouldn't be very far behind V7. And the reason because is V7 is something they've been trying to push out for a while, but they also realize that they're not going to be able to shove everything into V7. So they're going to have that phased approach of a V7, which will probably have 50 to 75% of what you would normally have, right? There might be still a few features that we can't access in V7 that we do have access to now. Then you get the V7 one, which has the extension of the other pieces of it. But V7, a couple weeks away, touching on the notes. Maybe I'll share these two because you and I both were on at least part of the call. And then we also have gone through the notes here. Let's pull these up so everybody else can see them, and we'll just kind of talk through these together. First piece being V7. So new model, I would take this back to like a month or two ago. They said January. The reality of that now to me looks like late January, mid-February, with mid-February, early to mid-February feeling like the most likely, because them talking about this idea that we're now in this testing phase, and that can take anywhere from a week to a month. Plus there's a 2-week final tuning phase. And then the alpha period follows the final tuning. And if you're not familiar, alpha is typically that access that's given to folks that have generated a certain number of images. There's some sort of threshold. They've generated a certain number of images. They've been a Midjourney user for a while, or they have a yearly plan, whatever it is, right? So then that will be the case. Not everybody will have access, but looks like February for that. And I think the thing that I was the most surprised about with this piece of it was David seemed to think like V7 is totally different than V6. And I was not expecting that, because even if I take that back to one of those office hours that occurred before the holidays, because we had a couple weeks off there, I think we might have even talked about this. I was a little concerned because it didn't really sound like V7 was going to be much of a jump or a difference at all. Mm-hmm. And now I heard this, right? New architecture, different data sets, revised language processing. So different prompting is going to work now. It's going to be a whole different coherence. They even talked about the jump from V5 to V6 again, which you and I know quite well, because we remember when 5.2 was over and then all of a sudden 6 was there, and it was like, oh, these images are totally different. And there's a lot of the stuff that I can't just copy and paste over. I got to make some tweaks to it.
Yeah. Because it was like V5.2 was like, and V5 essentially was like broader concept prompting, which was going to work really well. Like if you were just using keywords and like large sort of placeholders, like you were going to get something creative and good. And then V6 sort of like went back to that, super coherence model where you need to like really define more blank canvas style what you're looking for. But now that once they started adding the things like sref and the sref codes and the editor and the retexture and all these other different variables in play and personalize and mood boards and whatever, like you can kind of take it in a million different directions, so it's less of a deal than it was when it was first V6, right? When you just like jumped in there and you had to kind of text an image prompt, and that was like where you were going with stuff. So yeah, I mean, like I feel like we think it hasn't. To me, it's ambiguous. Right, because when we look back, we thought V5 was crazy in addition to V4, right? And like in reality, it probably wasn't. It wasn't like crazy big, but then like V6 to V5 was another massive jump. But we were just able to kind of pick it up much quicker because of older prompting architecture from like V4 kind of stuff. I have a feeling this one's probably going to be pretty. The one thing this is interesting for V7 that I'm hoping is that now after testing some of these like super coherent models, I hope it's not down that route, because it's awesome to control everything. But if you can't control everything and you don't have a vision for everything, then like you're just going to have a blank, kind of average image, right? Like that's how it will be. You don't have that like creative flair that Midjourney we've talked about so many times. So like let its imagination also drive some of the conversation too.
Let's clip that. Clip that. That is it. Because do you want to change the things that make you different? And if you do, how certain are you that those are the right things to change?
Yeah.
That's it, dude. Like I still love having fun with the ability to take some of these tokens that you and I talk about, or this equation that I just brought up, and you throw that, like that's fun. That's the magic. And to your point, there is value in the coherence in the clear and matter-of-fact way. It's not a lot of fun. It's not a lot of fun to do it that way.
It's a lot of rules. It's a lot of rules. Who likes rules here? None of you, because you're listening to this.
Right.
That's why.
That's right, dude.
That's the one thing. It's just like, I'm being a hypocrite because I would like the ability to do both. Like I would like the
Well,
ability.
why
for some
can't
reason,
you do both? You know, I think that's a common problem that a lot of people run into. It's like it's got to be one way or the other. It's one thing or the other. No, like both things can be true. Why can't we have a more coherent model and a more abstract magical model? Why not? Why? I don't know. Like I'm not a technical nerd. I'm not building these programs, so I don't know the ins and outs. That would be super valuable. No one else is doing that.
Yeah. That's why I like, that's why having something like Stylize is so great, because Stylize is basically like, it's lower levels, it's what you said. Higher levels, it's like let the creativity run wild. Awesome. There's not a lot of, I just feel like that's, like people are cheapening the idea of like the creativity portion of the tool itself, because, that only can get better with the immense amount of data that it's trained on. It's only going to get bigger, 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 the more creative it gets. But if you put too many guardrails around it, then you like limit what that output can be. And then we go back to, version 5 when everyone's stuff looked exactly the same and super symmetrical, and it was the exact same face, and it was the exact same setting, and it was all, neon lights in the background.
Come on, man.
Looking straight at the camera,
Hey, man, that was cool for a couple minutes, though. For a couple minutes, that was cool.
Yeah. I like So I'm very much so looking forward to see what this actually means. Like what this all means. It says improved prompt understanding, coherence, and flexible styling. There are some tokens that you go through that don't necessarily pick up, right? Like it doesn't pick up on the tokens as some of it does. Like we've talked about a lot of the power tokens that just do work, right? And then there's some that it's kind of like, I don't even know what that is. So I'm guessing like expanding data sets in terms of like prompt understanding and coherence too. Like they just have to keep like adding stuff to that into the tagging mechanism to get somewhere. But also like, I'd love to have, if we want to have like super control, I'd love to have more color control, right? Like more
color control,
like
color
something like that.
Needed. Yeah,
because there's a way to codify that. Like there is a standard Pantone set or RGB set, like CMYK set, where you can do that.
No, man, I want Sherwin-Williams colors, please.
Well, it'd be a great licensing deal if anyone wanted to pull that one off.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, no, I mean, I agree, right? Like style references and, style codes and, all that. Yeah, it's definitely very, very valuable, but to fine tune that at this point feels like the next step. I mean, it feels like it's coming inevitably. The other piece of V7, maybe just talking about that model as a whole, is character consistency, which I know you love. Multiple characters, long overdue, right? Like I even think when we got CREF, do you remember when that was? But whenever it
June,
was,
July,
we
August-ish.
thought this is the V1, V2's coming shortly,
Yeah.
and it hasn't happened yet. It's been waiting for this. So like that's long overdue, because now you've got all these other tools, right, that have leaped Midjourney in terms of the character consistency part of it. Midjourney brings that into the fold. Watch out. I think that is going to be one of the key pieces of V7. They've said that. So if that's something that you've been waiting for and you're listening to this, you're going to love that. I feel pretty confident in saying that, because they've stressed that from the beginning, but they've also talked about that ability to bring multiple characters into the scene, which, as good as your walkthrough and loophole was,
It's hard.
fucking sucks that you have to go through all those hoops to do it. You know what I mean? Like, we got to make that part easier. So
they have to for video, right? Like that's the thing. Is like they have to realize that if they're going to do video, people don't want to use a different character in every scene. They want to use the same. They want to tell stories. So like they have a storytelling team. They have, this new video sort of initiative. They have patchwork. They have all this stuff. It's like, people want to tell stories with the tools, whether that be still or video. They want to use the same characters, and they want to use the same aesthetics. Aesthetics things now nailed down. Like they don't even have to me, they don't even have to do much more there. Like I don't even care what else they do. I have enough control aesthetically to do what I want, right? It's the finer details. It's the characters, objects, places, things like that. So
now, hey, this is an interesting question, and I know we're gonna continue to push through this, but I wonder, because I was just doing a training the other day, character consistency, people using that as this quasi object reference, which we've talked about too, like using an object as a character reference to try to, see what juice is there. It's kind of hard. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Do we get an object reference at some point?
I have conspiracy theories on this.
We love conspiracy theories.
Yeah. I think it's like a legal thing. I don't think they want to touch it because I don't think like they've already had their toes dipped in hot water with a few, legal situations with, IP infringement and stuff like that. I don't think they want people like uploading random, intellectual property into the product and then like that being replicated in some way, shape, or form, which is almost impossible. But at the same time, like I just have a feeling like there is some sort of like they've been so quiet on it, and it was something that people really wanted. For a long time, it was high up on the ranking list of like the things that people wanted. So
yeah,
that if I'm thinking like them, it's something. All right, we already have like enough noise around. Like that's not something that's necessary. There's other tools for it. Like let people go in that direction with other tools. So, granted, I would love it. I have a feeling I'm not going to see it. That's just how I feel about it. But I think if they're gonna give in some areas, right, like not push their luck, like I think it might be that one, because everyone's talked about it for a long time. Like, can't we just get an object reference? Yes, that'd be great, but we haven't seen it, or a development about it, or even a mention of it.
Very true.
So
Very
I think
true.
it's intentional that it's not there.
Yeah. Let's go through the rest of this with V7 and what we know, I guess. There's the large batch modes, which should be a part of it, right? So we're thinking about larger than just getting your 4-grid back without using permutations. So, I know we talked about like that batch of 8. Does that expand to bigger? I don't know. They haven't talked about that, but maybe that's something that could be like one of those things that just kind of jumps in there. Is there anything else that we missed with that? Like,
what's draft mode?
Don't remember that from the call.
I didn't remember reading anything about it. Draft modes, specialized offshoots at varying speed and quality. I don't know. What is draft mode?
Well, I know this
weird.
Just like they've talked about the idea of like, do we have different models? Like if you think about Runway's got turbo, for example. Maybe you sacrifice some quality to get something faster.
Okay.
But I don't know. I have no idea what draft mode means. Now, with video and all that, haven't heard how that attaches to V7 yet. I don't think that's like my speculation. That's not going to be a part of V7. Definitely, like I would feel very strongly that's not going to be a part of V7. Will it be a part of V7 1? That's the question I would have, right? When does that come out? Is it attached to just V7 at that point? Because there was that initial conversation, if you remember, like, do we have a training model that's just built off V6? They did start to talk about video on the call. They talked about their working. They've got like 4 options here. They've got one model they're building themselves. They've got 2 models that they're talking to potential partners, collaborators with. I have no idea who that is. I have no idea whether that
API,
pans out.
Probably stuff.
Right.
And
so, like there's a lot of question marks still on the video side, but I thought there was some really great points, by David that were made. And I think about this, and I know you relate to it, but like I know I thought about this too, because I recently actually labored to put together a video that was a few things in a row, right? Like more of a vision, more of a story. And as much as I like doing it, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of fucking work. And the way that David put it, I think was correct. You can build passable things with painful workflows. Yes.
It's a great line.
Passable things with painful. That's exactly the state that we're in. Right? It's not a fun, it's not as fun as it's going to be. It's not as fun as it should be right now because of where we're at with the tech. And that's not a knock on the tech. The tech's going to keep evolving and growing up and becoming more mature and unlocking things. But that's kind of where we're at right now. Like you do a lot of video, Rory. I know with me doing some of that too, like how much that goes into that. And it's kind of a pain in the ass. And it's
very much so.
When it's that, it takes away from the fun. which is part of why we always talk about, it's kind of why this podcast is about Midjourney. It's that magical, fun part of creating, right? And so when video unlocks that and these things become more consistent, more high quality, more predictable, less painful in terms of like connecting the dots between 5 or 6 tools, that's going to be that inflection point for video. And does that come in 2025 or does that come in 2026?
Good question. I think they're probably going to partner or API at some point. Like, I don't know who it's going to be with. It sounds like they're looking for something like that. Maybe, who knows? Maybe they acquire someone like Minimax. Like, I don't know. Like, it might be just an easier way for them to get there quicker and cheaper is to buy an existing product, to buy something that's already available. They definitely have the cash flow. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think they're underwater by any means, considering, again, the way that they operate. So it's interesting because I'm not sure what they're going to do and how they're going to make it different, because video is so hard. I mean, technically, if they had character consistency, right? Like what video does is really just, 20, a lot of them are 24 or 30 frames per second. Really what they're doing is just generating small variations between point A, point B. So like every second you get 24 images, right? So this larger batch to me is like another step in the way of how they want to do things. Because it's just like, basically you're doing, the way that I understand it is if there's, 10-second video, you have 24 frames per second, it's generating 240 frames in between, each little step of the way.
Great
and then
point.
sort of like need the model to interpolate them, to like blend them all together. So, they have the images, right? The images are there. Like they can produce all that. They just need the consistency. Like style, aesthetically, it works. It's just like the characters and things like that. And then you have to, from my understanding again of like how they're training models, it's mostly on motion. So that's the differentiator, is you have to have enough, motion data, whether that's human, animal, interactions of light and things like that, which is like a ton of work, which I can see why they're like, it's going to cost millions upon millions to do this. And it might be easier for them to buy someone. I don't know. I think they probably have their pulse on, a lot more of these smaller sort of products that are kind of developing and things of that nature. And maybe that's a way for them to acquire.
Maybe 2 things to leave you guys with as we wrap this up. One, going back to personalization, David really stressed that. You mentioned this early on. Make sure you guys are going through that process, personalizing. This is where I think the secret sauce lies, in getting things that you want to create with less effort. So going back to the idea, you got to create these long, very specific, very strategic prompts to get something you like. Yes, there are places for that. Yes, there are times for that, but it's mostly unnecessary in a lot of ways when you set up things like personalization. So that's number one, go through that process. And maybe the last thing like we should mention and bring up, Rory, is just the fact that like now is a great time to use Midjourney on relax mode, because they have offered up their servers to basically run relax mode at a fast mode speed right now. I can't remember when the cutoff is for that, but it's coming soon. So I think you have at least, maybe by the time this comes out, maybe another few days, if not a week, to run that. So this is great if you want to explore style codes or run prompts in different mood boards or different personalizations or just whatever you want to do without burning fast hours. Now's the time to do it.
Meaning you can basically have unlimited generations if you want it. So there you go. That's your New Year's gift.
Yeah. It's been a hell of a gift. Like I would say, like when they first announced that, I was running so many damn style codes just in relax mode. Perfect for that.
R40, enter. I'll see you in 10 minutes.
Exactly.
But
well,
got to wrap this one up. Drew and I.
Let's wrap it up, dude.
Tight schedules here.
We are on tight schedules.
Unfortunately.
But we're going to be back next week with a good one. Rory, good to see you, brother. Glad you're safe. Don't bring any cold weather down to here, Atlanta. We're good. We already got the snow. So
just wait. I might bring something else. But, with that being said, everyone knows the deal here. Like and subscribe, because that's what we have to say. But again, dude, awesome talking. Let's rip through this next week. We'll go through hopefully we'll have some V7 coming up in the next 2 to 3 episodes. And then I think we'll just go from there.
Let's get this thing going, man. Good to see you, brother.
Good to see you, dude. Have
See
fun
you
in the
guys.
snow.
Catch you in the next one.
Get out.